Moin Lieben, herzlich willkommen bei Fidelity. Das Video, was ihr jetzt seht, ist auf Englisch gedreht und es wird 3 Teile davon geben. Es ist eine Interviewserie, die, wie ich finde, sehr, sehr schön geworden ist, mit sehr netten Gesprächen. Von daher wünsche ich euch viel Spaß dabei.
Bevor das Video losgeht, zeige ich euch noch einmal ganz kurz, wie ihr die automatischen Untertitel einstellen könnt. Da gibt es nämlich verschiedene Möglichkeiten und das ist gerade auf dem Desktop relativ tricky. Ihr könnt natürlich hier unten einfach die Untertitel anstellen. Dann seht ihr jetzt hier auch schon, sind die auf Englisch. Wenn ihr jetzt die automatische Übersetzung einschalten wollt und einen deutschen Untertitel haben möchtet, dann müsst ihr einfach hier auf das Zahnrad gehen, hier auf Untertitel Englisch automatisch erzeugt. Und dann könnt ihr hier automatisch übersetzen und Deutsch auswählen. Deutsch auswählen, da Deutsch. Und dann seht ihr hier auch schon die Übersetzung. Da sind natürlich 1, 2 Fehler drin, aber ich denke, dass mit dem Ton auch dazu, mit dem Englischen, kann man da schon ganz gut folgen. Das ist auch wichtig, dass ihr das so macht, weil wenn ich jetzt hier den Untertitel ausschalte und ich gehe direkt auf das Zahnrad, auf Untertitel, dann kann man nur Englisch auswählen, da kann man dann Deutsch nicht auswählen. Deswegen, ihr müsst zuerst hier unten den Untertitel einschalten und dann Untertitel und dann könnt ihr die Sprache, beziehungsweise dann könnt ihr hier sogar jetzt das Deutsch schon vorausgewählt, weil ich das eben schon gemacht habe. Was natürlich auch geht, ist auf Untertitel hier gehen, hier den Untertitel einschalten, dann nochmal auf Untertitel gehen und dann hier automatisch übersetzen und Deutsch. So, ich zeige jetzt einmal schnell, wie das am Handy geht, beziehungsweise in der YouTube-App. In der YouTube-App ist das Ganze ein bisschen einfacher. Da, so ist es jetzt zumindest hier bei Apple, ist oben rechts, findet ihr auch das CC, also für Untertitel. Da schaltet ihr den Untertitel an, könnt dann auf das Zahnrad gehen, Untertitel, automatische Untertitel und dann die Sprache auswählen. Ihr könnt auch im Gegensatz zum Browser, könnt ihr auch direkt auf das Zahnrad gehen, auf Untertitel und dann auch da direkt auf automatischen Untertitel, könnt direkt die Sprache auswählen. Also das ist etwas leichter. Ich hoffe, euch hat das geholfen und jetzt viel Spaß mit dem Video.
Hi Angus, thank you very much for visiting us at Fidelity in Hamburg. We're very honored to have you here. Today we talk a little bit about Westminster Lab electronics and of course the cables. And you are one of the owners and founders of Westminster Lab. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to our viewers?
Yeah, my name is Angus, so I'm one of the founders and owners of Westminster Lab. We started the company officially at 2012. We were a cable company originally, so we started making cables, power cables, signal cables, XLR cables, digital cables, all sorts of cables back then. And then we moved into electronics. So the unser was our first Class AB amplifiers. We brought up the amplifier with a few key technologies that we have, point-to-point soldering. We experiment with different new materials, titanium, PEEK, plastic, that sort of thing. And then in 2019 and 2021, we brought out the new Ray amplifier in front and the Quest preamp. So the Ray is a Class A amplifier, and the Quest is an all-new preamp, completely rethink from the ground up.
Okay, so the Ray, it's a mono amplifier. Very interesting components. Why you choose Class A?
Back in the days when we brought out the unser, actually we were looking at Class A technology. But back in the days we don't have the technology to make Class A to fulfill our needs.
Yeah.
And over the years we know Class A is the sound that we would like to have. It offers those distortion, but the technology already becomes mature finally, and that's why we brought out the Class A mono amplifier, which we call the Ray. The Ray, the name Ray actually is Japanese. It means zero. So this is the zero of our product line.
Okay, nice to know. We can open the unit. I'll do that for you. We untightened the screws already. Let's talk a little bit about the amplifier design. What was your thoughts?
you can see we have a tremendous area, a large area dedicated for power supplies. We believe power supply is very important design within all the electronics. We have a 600 volt old type transformer over here, which provides very high efficiency power transformation to the unit. And on the left side here is the main board for all the amplifying electronics. The inputs at the back, and all the way with 5 sets of power transistors, and an output back here. There are several key features that we think is quite unique to this unit. People always ask, how can you cramp a Class A amplifier in such a small package? Because when
it's not the normal size.
It's not the normal size. When you think of Class A, you think it's very hot. It produces a lot of heat.
Yes.
We did a few tricks in order to make it happen. Of course, you can see this heatsink is not the typical heatsink that you can find on the market. It's not an off the shelf. We designed our own profiles. This heatsink is CNC milled from a single block, and we do a lot of simulation, finite simulations. We do a lot of fluid dynamics in order to simulate how the airflow within the unit works. That's why the efficiency of this heatsink is higher than what you can get on the market. And the amount of materials are there in order to spread the heat and dissipate it is tailored to our needs and consumption. The second tricks that we do is our bias system. So it's like a dynamic biasing system. So we reduce the bias a little bit when the loading is not there. And then when the loading gets more and more, we increase the bias. So that's why it's not the typical Class A that you find on the market.
Yeah, okay. They are asymmetrical and both are the same optic. What is the warm-up time from your Class A amplifier? Is the warm-up time something like that?
We need around 20 minutes in order to in order to warm up. The bias system actually increased the bias quite a lot during the warm-up time. So unlike some other Class A amplifiers, it sounds already quite good out of when it's stone cold. But
that's my experience as well.
Yeah, it gets warm up quite quickly, around 15 to 20 minutes, and it will sound great.
Yeah. Let's talk about the sound. Could you what is your amplifier sounding like? Is there something you can find words for? It's the hardest part, of course.
Yeah, it is. It's very hard because in Westminster Lab, we always want our customer to forget what they have bought. In a sense, we want them to get a feeling that they are listening to their source. So it's like the source and the speakers, or the source and the music. We just want them to hear what the real music it sounds like. So to forget about the amplifiers, the cables.
Yeah.
If this is not there, then this is what if it sounds like it's not there, then this is kind of like our aim.
I get what you're talking about. So it's not about the electronics, so it's the performance that you get straight into the music and not hearing about the amplifier. Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the preamplifier. What is special about the Quest?
The Quest, because in the beginning we only have the power amplifiers, and we think the preamplifiers is not really needed because we have digital volume control and that sort of thing. And we saw the traditional preamplifiers has a slight downside, and that's why we think the preamp is not needed in the system. But after a few years of research and development, we come up with something which is quite new, a new approach into preamplifier design. That's why we always called the Quest is a preamplified reimagined project.
Okay.
In terms of the industrial design, it's already very different from what you get in the market.
We know,
There's no physical buttons. everything's remote control. It's such a minimalistic monolith, you know. And if you look at the inside, we can see is quite different from what
we know.
What we know,
Yeah,
actually,
absolutely.
yeah. We have most of the things you can see are actually power supplies. So there are 10 individual regulators within this unit, and it's a completely dual mono design from top to bottom.
Okay.
And the signal part is extremely short, so the inputs are over here. This is the volume control board, and the outputs are there. This section are all power regulators and power supplies.
Okay. Yeah.
And we did put a lot of efforts in terms of the power supply design, because everything comes from the power. And for small signals, like the preamplifier handles, it needs amazing clean powers in order to bring out the finite microdynamics and details of the music that you're going to hear. And there are lots of isolations, things we have done to the units. For example, the input select relays, they are double isolated. So we have one set of relays to open another set of relays in order to reduce the noise further. And on the side, we have two separate transformers. One is dedicated for audio controls, processors, and LEDs.
Okay.
And this one is only dedicated to the audio.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the input slots we can add to the Quest to get more individual preference and needs.
Yeah. The Quest only has XLR inputs because we always believe in balanced technology. That's why it's completely balanced from top to bottom. But for example, if a customer wants to have an RCA input, that's why we offer an RCA input card. So the customers can actually have two bays that they can customize. So if they want an RCA card, they can buy it, take out a few screws, plug it in, and then you
Simple
have
as that.
Simple as
So
that.
you can do it by your own.
You can do it by your own.
Okay.
Of course, the dealers can install it for you. And then we come up with something new last year, which is the phono. This is the MCMM phono amplifier card available in there. We entered the phono market quite late. I mean, we started last year.
Yeah.
But the reason why we took our time is because we want something really special. We want to bring something truly revolutionary.
On the quality that match these products.
On the quality that matches products. Yeah. And in here we completely rethink what vinyl playback should sound like. And we think we've done it. And this is something very interesting, and we are very excited to brought it out last year, and we can't wait to listen to our customers' feedback on this one. And here we have another prototype. This will be available next month or two. This is a world premiere to the video here.
Okay.
This is a DS audio cartridge amplifier. So this is the phono amplifier dedicated for DS audio. Yeah. We worked with DS audio actually, and we are the third manufacturer to be certified to be one of their partners.
Wow. Okay.
In doing the equalizer dedicated for their DS cartridge. Okay. So it's very exciting to have the ability to customize your preamp, to have different types of inputs.
Yeah.
And
Okay, very nice. Let's talk about the materials you use. You're using carbon, but not also on the outside, on the inside as well. So it's not only design. What is the reason you choose that material?
Well, the carbon has very good mechanical characteristics in terms of the exterior, and also amazing shielding qualities. Yeah. That's why we employ it in the rays, top cover and bottom cover. They're all carbon, and also in the crest. We can see a lot of carbon fiber shielding over here and over here. To shield unwanted noises and EMI generated. The customers of Quest can actually opt for an extended carbon pack. And that offers more carbon shielding over the relays, the different type areas, and also the power supplies.
That's a separate option.
It's just a separate options.
Okay.
And we find that it even brings the sound quality a step further.
Okay, very interesting. You're using the carbon option on your speaker cables as well. If you like, let's talk a little bit about the speaker cables. What is the special about the cables you're manufacturing?
Yeah, in Westminster Lab, in our world, we take a lot of emphasis on traditional values and also new technologies. So in terms of new technologies, we do a lot of computer-aided design, finite simulations, flow dynamics, simulations of the electronic circuitry. We take a lot of measurements of our equipments. But we also, with the rare breed, we are also one of the rare breed who do a lot of traditional listening to different kind of music, and also the emphasis on workmanship and craftsmanship. So all products we made in Westminster Lab are all handmade.
Yeah.
In the sense, handmade to as much as possible. So all steps, for example, like these components are all soldered by hand. Everything is basically hand wired and hand soldered, hand twisted. We do a lot of handcrafting. And that extends to the cables. All of our cables, the conductors, they are all hand polished, hand coated. They were knit by hand, and they were insulated by hand, finished by hand, and soldered by hand. And this is one of the reasons why we can come up with a technology called Veritwist. So the Veritwist actually, the twisting angle between the conductors within the cables has a variable angle throughout the whole cable. And this is only possible because we handmade every single cables.
Very unique, yeah.
And with that flexibility, that's why we can actually customize the structure in terms of the number of strands, the cross-section area, the number of conductors, the insulation thickness, the dielectric materials and thickness of every single type of cables within our range. So every single type of cables within a range has a specific structure dedicated for the use of that cable. So for example, a power cable, we will have more cross-section areas, and with digital, it's a different type of design because current is not actually needed in a sense compared to power cables. And not a lot of manufacturers do this type of customization for all this type of cables. And this is one of the uniqueness of our design and also philosophy.
Okay. So and the product range from the cables, you have the standard and you have the ultra. What is the difference between standard and ultra?
In terms of the physicality of the standard and ultra, the difference, the standards has less cross-section areas, less strand of conductors. The dielectric is a little bit different. The structure is actually quite different. The workmanship needed for the standard and the ultra actually takes around 3 times as much of time to make when compared to the standard. In terms of sound, they offer very similar sound signature.
Yes.
But I would say the effect and the atmospheric feel and the ambience of the ultra is just another level.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. I had the chance to listen to standard and ultra. We talked about it yesterday a little bit. It's absolutely noticeable and a huge step up with the overall sound. It's like the beautiful music qualities are very there and very exciting. You have chosen the mono design. Could you tell a little bit about bridging and what your opinions were when you designed the speakers? The amplifiers.
Yeah. From day one, when we have the inception of the Ray, we actually designed it to be bridged externally in order to scale up the system.
Yeah. Okay.
So this offers a lot of advantages. First, we don't have a big chassis, so
Yeah,
it's
makes sense.
very easy to handle. You can place it at home easily, and the customers actually don't have to sell their old gears, and they can just buy another pair in order to step up the game.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, we have to basically make two units completely identical. But that's why we do a lot of calibration and matching in between components of these units. And in order to do it properly, we actually match the transistors at different working conditions, at different output currents, different bias currents, and different voltage. This is, I think, quite rare in the industry.
Yeah.
And with the bridging, the result is a Class A amplifier, which has 400 volts at 8 ohm and 800 volts at 4 ohm. The damping factor is more than 2,000 across the audio range at maximum output, and the output impedance is down to 0.009 ohm. So it's quite an impressive
Absolutely. Yeah.
amplifier, and we think is a very good solution and a very flexible solution for customers which would like to explore more with the existing Westminster lab system.
Yeah. I would like to talk about speed, because one of the first thoughts I had when I first listened to Westminster Lab Electronics was the immediately speed. What is your opinion about it, and why is your amp so fast?
Well, as I previously mentioned, our aim is to allow the customers to actually feel that the amps and the cables are not there. In order to do that, we have to completely mimic the exact signal that the source is coming from. And to do that, we have to have a lot of speed, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
And the transient is always a very important factor in kind of music, the attack, the decay. And that's why we put a lot of effort in order to make sure that our amps are fast enough. And to do that, we actually gone into a lot of ways in order to do it. First, we reduce the amount of components that we have in the schematics, and we do a lot of matchings, the transistor matching, and also resistors matching, and every bit helps. I mean, a very good example is the power transistors. As I mentioned, we measured it across a few points of the working situation. And if we do that, it actually helps the unit in several ways. Of course, it actually helps the speed, because these transistors will not work against each other because they are so matched. And also with that, you get less heat as well. So, and these tiny little bits, every single bit helps. And I'm glad that your customers and also you have realized that the transient performance of our amplifiers
is phenomenal. It's one of a kind, and it's really engaging. When you start playing the music, it's like an immediately connection between music and yourself.
Yeah, you get the sense of energy, and the sense that the speed of sound is just real. It just feels real. Yeah.
Angus, thank you very, very much for visiting us today and show us the Westminster Lab Electronic. Once again, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.